Is it really the finest in jazz? Let's take a look at this box set and find out. This is the story of Blue Note Records' VMP Anthology 001-2. This is the repress or second edition of their very first Anthology box set, which is pretty exciting. And this one is in a new box, similar to how they did a new box for the Zamrock box set as well. And I actually think that this presentation is way nicer than the original. The original box set is an all black finish, and it actually has the Blue Note 80 logo on it, which I wasn't too crazy about, but I really like this logo and the way that this box set is set up as well. This one also has a photo insert of the box as well, and I'm not sure if the original black box set did that as well or not. The box set itself came very well packaged and not damaged for me. These are hand numbered. As I mentioned, mine came in shipped very nicely, but it does have this weird kind of like imperfection on the back of the box. The box itself is very nice. It's almost like a tip-on jacket type box, and it's a very compact box, which is nice too, mainly because it's not full of all gatefold records, which we'll get into with the jackets here in a minute. This entire box set is pressed at RTI, and all of the lacquers are cut by Kevin Gray with the exception of one of the records, which is the newer one from 2010. All of the jackets in here, with the exception of one, as we mentioned, are not gatefold, but they are beautiful, beautiful tip-on jackets, and we'll get into each one of them as we look at each of the records. But they're much nicer than the classic vinyl record jackets that are out there, and also because these are pressed at RTI, you're getting a little bit of a better pressing. You're basically getting Tone Poet vinyl, but without the deluxe jackets, but you're getting slightly deluxe jackets because they're really, really nice tip-on jackets. So far as I can tell, none of the other records in this set are out there as either classic vinyl or Tone Poet. So if you want some of these repressed AAA lacquer from Kevin Gray, the only way to get it is through this box set at the moment. Now, trying to tell the entire story of a label like Blue Note Records with just 7 pieces of vinyl is close to impossible, I would say. What they basically try to do with this set is feature most of what we all mostly love, which is the Blue Note Modern Jazz series. This is everything that you'll find numbered from either 1500, 4000, 4100, 4200, 4300, and then later the 4400 series has gotten reissues now from the Tone Poet series and things like that. The number changes to the BNLA series, which one of the records in this set is from that series. Blue Note's making a lot of great records now, which a new record is celebrated in this box set from 2010 here, and it's on 45 RPM vinyl too, so that's pretty cool. If you want to learn more about the entire Blue Note catalog, I highly suggest going to a really great resource called jazzdisco.org. It's basically where I've learned everything that I know about the Blue Note catalog. There's a lot of other great labels on jazzdisco.org, and I'll leave a link for it in the description if you're interested in checking it out. Musically, this box set tries to have one record that represents something from the bebop era, the hard bop era, the soul jazz era, the post bop era, the fusion era, and the modern era. I think it does so pretty well, but we'll get into it a little bit as we're listening to each of those records. Another great thing with this set is they give you this really nice booklet that's written by Ben Ratliff that has a write-up for each one of the albums. It's very similar to all the other Vinyl Me Please anthologies that they've done, obviously, because this was the first one that they did. But it's really nice to have these extra photos in it, since all these jackets aren't full-on gatefolds with the extra photos, similar to like how the Tone Poets are done. So this is a very awesome booklet to check out. I personally like these booklets a lot because they do give you a lot of background and information about all of the thought processes going into putting this entire set together. And it's cool. If you listen to it in chronology with this booklet and kind of like follow it along. There's also a really nice podcast that comes along with these anthology box sets as well that you should definitely go listen to. And if you're kind of questioning like, well, how could they step through an entire story of a giant label like this with just 6 records? They kind of do achieve it when you read through like their thought processes on which ones they were choosing here. But let's get into the records here themselves and see what you get in this awesome box set. The first record out of the box here is Horace Silver, the Horace Silver Trio, featuring percussion from Art Blakey and Sabu. Now, this is a really awesome record and a great one to start out this box set. This originally came out in 1956 as Blue Note LP 1520, and if you look on most of these Blue Note records, you'll find the numbering right either on the front of the record or on the back of the record here, right at the top right-hand corner on the backhand side, and pretty much all of the ones in the modern jazz series have this numbering system. I'm not sure why they went from 1500 to 4000, but that is the transition there. Most of the 1500 series comes out in the 1950s, and this session is kind of listed on Discogs as a compilation because most of it was recorded in 1952 and 1953. There's 2 tracks on here that feature only percussion, with the first one being with Art Blakey and conga player Sabu, who was a conga player that played along with the Dizzy Gillespie Orchestra and a lot of other Latin groups at the time. So it has like a really awesome Afro-Latin flavor to it. What I really like about Horace Silver's playing is just how rhythmical it is and how bright it is and how energetic. It's really interesting when I go back and think about what I was listening to with this trio because it doesn't sound like a trio. The bassists on this actually change on most of the tracks, but on all of it, it's Art Blakey and Horace Silver. And even just between the two of them, they sound like an orchestra playing. When you listen to them playing, it sounds like an entire orchestra. It doesn't sound just like 2 people. You're gonna hear about this with all of these records. They have immaculate tip-on jackets. These tip-on jackets are very, very premium. And as I mentioned before, they're much, much nicer than the regular classic vinyl jackets that you get from the Blue Note Classic series, which are not bad records at all, but these are definitely a step up from that. So it's definitely nice to get a little bit more premium quality when you're getting this entire box set. Now, this one here is supposed to represent the bebop era, so this is your first starting out in the 1500 series with Blue Note of the bebop era. The next one out of the box here is Dexter Gordon Calling, which is Blue Note LP 4083, originally released in 1962. This record cooks. It's got Dexter Gordon, Kenny Drew, Paul Chambers, and Philly Joe Jones, and this is just one of my new favorite Blue Note records to have because this is just a really awesome session. This is the only one out of the box set that was just a little bit slightly warped. It's got like a little bit of a dish warp to it. It actually flattens right out when I use my Michelle record clamp on it. So this is the only one out of the entire box set that had any type of flaw like that. So I'm not even going to go back for it. It sounds fantastic. All of these records are extremely silent, and all of them, for the most part, with the exception of this one, were totally flat. As of right now, this is not part of the Blue Note Classic series or the Tone Poet series. But what I can say is that there is a Music Matters jazz out there that's like $150, and that's a 33 RPM. And then there's an Analog Productions 45 RPM, which goes for like $75, $80. So I'm not going to go out there chasing those Music Matters or AP 45s. It's awesome to have this one in the set here. And maybe at some point they will make these on the Classic Vinyl series. But as of right now, this is not in the Classic Vinyl series. So if you're interested in getting this Dexter Gordon Calling, you'd have to either go get it on the AP 45 or the Music Matters, or find it in this box set. So I'm glad that it's included in this box set. The next one out of the box here is Lou Donaldson, The Natural Soul, Blue Note LP 4108, originally released in 1963. And this is supposed to represent the soul jazz of Blue Note in this era. And I think that they could not have chose anyone better than Lou Donaldson for that. Lou Donaldson is one of my all-time favorite jazz musicians, and it is very sad that we just recently lost him. However, he did have an amazing, amazing catalog with so many great sessions and artists, and this one is, in my opinion, kind of like first getting into what I call like his secret funk band, which I feel like really kicks into gear with Mr. Shingling and Alligator Boogaloo. So if you like any of those sessions, you're definitely going to like this one a lot. This has John Patton on it, as well as Grant Green, Ben Dixon, and Tommy Turrentine. And anytime I see any of those guys, I immediately buy the record, and I have not been disappointed with that formula at all. Grant Green is also another one of my favorites here. And I feel like this is a great record to put into the set because it does have these guys in it. Like, I would want to have a John Patton record in here or a Grant Green record. So it's cool that they chose this one, and you kind of like cover all those guys with this record. Also, I think this era of Blue Note is really accessible for people, and specifically Lou Donaldson. If you're not too familiar with jazz, or if you're just into like soul or funk type of stuff, but you're kind of wanting to get into jazz, Lou Donaldson is perfect for that transition. Same with Grant Green and John Patton and Ben Dixon. Like, these guys all fall right into that model. Stanley Turrentine as well. Personally, I think one of the best ways to get into jazz is to actually start from stuff that's later and then work your way back. Like, I wouldn't start immediately with like Louis Armstrong, or honestly, I wouldn't even start immediately with like someone like Bill Evans. I would go more for like 60s, 70s jazz and then start to work your way backwards from there. At least that's been my experience with it, and I feel like it's been really great. And now I'm starting to really appreciate and get into more of the earlier stuff like the 1500 series. The next one out of the box here is Wayne Shorter's Schizophrenia, Blue Note LP 4297, originally released in 1969. And this, again, coming from that 4200 series, is a really awesome period for Blue Note, and this is a great session. This has Herbie Hancock on it and Ron Carter, as well as Joe Chambers, James Spaulding, and Curtis Filler. And there is just a lot of really good transition period happening on this record, because you have Wayne Shorter and Ron Carter and Herbie Hancock, who are doing a lot of stuff with Miles right around this time. And you can kind of feel like Wayne Shorter is really just trying to break out of Blue Note at this period, because it's 1969 and he's just about to go off and start stuff with like Weather Report and things like that. So this is literally like, it's very schizophrenic. But that being said, it's not too far of an out there record, and there's a lot of really great flute playing on this too. If you like 60s jazz flute stuff, you'll definitely like this record. And if you like Herbie Hancock, you'll definitely enjoy this one. Now, this one is one that has been re-released as a Tone Poet since the original anthology came out in 2019. I think the Tone Poet for this came out in 2022 or 23, I'm not sure. And I know that that Tone Poet has a really awesome stout and gatefold jacket like all the other Tone Poets. However, I know that the vinyl is probably exactly the same. Like, this is they're both cut by Kevin Gray and they're both pressed at RTI. So you're getting the exact same pressing with this that you probably are from the Tone Poet. Again, the fidelity on this record is fantastic. He just screams out of the left channel, and it is just an awesome separation. Again, the Blue Note 4200 series is recorded so well, and so you're not going to get any clunkers in there, and this one just sounds fantastic. Now, next out of the box here, we have Bobby Hutcherson. I believe this is pronounced Montara, and this is the first one that's now out of the Blue Note Modern Jazz series. This originally came out in 1975. You have Blue Mitchell, you have Bobby Hutcherson, you have Ralph McDonald on percussion, as well as Harvey Mason. Like, there's a lot of great stuff on here. There's a cover of Oye Como Va that ends the record that's like super fast. It's like one of the fastest versions of Oye Como Va ever, but it definitely grooves in the other sections. I'm pretty sure at this point Blue Note has moved to LA, because that's why they have it numbered BNLA, but it does have the different Blue Note label on it, the dark blue label instead of the white and blue classic Blue Note label. This is listed as representing the fusion era of Blue Note, but I would not say that this is a fusion record. Although if you want to say that it's kind of like fusing, jazz and like Latin feels, then okay, I guess you can say that. I'm pretty sure there's moments on this where Bobby Hutcherson is also playing either xylophone or marimba, because it doesn't exactly sound like a set of vibes, but this is an awesome session. One that actually kind of made me want to get this box set, and I think it's turning out to be one of my favorite records in the box set. Originally, I wanted to get it for the Lou Donaldson Natural Soul, but this record is very good. And I remember seeing on one of the live streams at some point, Rob the Waxed, who has a great channel out there, he knows a lot of jazz stuff, and he was talking about this, saying how he thought this was one of the best pressings of this record that he's ever heard coming out of this box set. So I can definitely agree. This is a fantastic pressing. Sounds amazing. AAA cut, again, from Kevin Gray. But if you're a fan at all of Bobby Hutcherson, this is definitely one worth getting, and one of the reasons to even get this entire box set. Now, the last record out of the box actually comes out in 2010, so they skip like 30 years there, and they jump ahead to the modern jazz of Blue Note. And I will say that I have never heard this record before, and I would imagine that most people would just kind of like write this off as, they're just throwing that in there. But I listened to this record, and it is fantastic. It's cut at 45 RPM, and there is a lot of really good playing on here. This is Ambrose Akinmusire. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Ambrose Akinmusire, When the Heart Emerges Glistening. Again, came out originally in 2010, and he is a trumpet player. I'm not too familiar with any of the musicians on here, but again, I'm not too familiar with most of the newer jazz that comes out on Blue Note. And that's something that I will say that I want to actually kind of change, going forward. Listening to this record, it started to make me kind of like think about the idea of like, why do we revere so much about the modern jazz and the Blue Note stuff from the 60s and 70s or even the, 50s versus this stuff, which is coming out now? And I will say there is some stuff from a technical standpoint or from a, straight up music theory standpoint that I could understand why some people wouldn't necessarily get into with more modern jazz stuff. And I would like to see more modern jazz musicians just going out there and doing simple stuff that like the guys did back in the day. But I also understand that that's not necessarily what jazz is about. Jazz is about pushing the envelope with things, and there is some pushing the envelope with this record. I mean, it came out now at this point 15 years ago, but this is a really great record. It's cut at 45 RPM, and like I said, the sound is fantastic. The bass and drums and the horns on it sound really good. There's some weird things on it that get into like some vocalese stuff with it and some like chant things, I would say, I guess. But like the breakdown of percussion stuff and a lot of the drumming on this is really, really good. So if you're interested at all in any kind of like modern jazz stuff, you'll really like this. Also, this is the only one that's on like a nice thick gatefold Stoughton jacket that's like similar to what you're going to find on like Tone Poet stuff like that. So this is a very cool one that they included in the set. So I'm glad to have this, and it sounds pretty cool. It was a cool adventure to listen to. So to wrap this up, this box set is pretty awesome, and I think it was worth the wait. Yes, Vinyl Me Please took forever to get this repress out there. I think there are some still available from Vinyl Me Please, and they are a little bit expensive. So if you wanted to consider getting a membership, I do have a link in the description that you can get $80 off up to a year membership if you wanted to try to get this for a little bit cheaper. You might also be able to find it on Discogs, and I've gotten a lot of the Anthology box sets on Discogs from Vinyl Me Please as well. This is a very cool set. Like I said, I'm very glad that they redid this in a blue color. I think it's much nicer than the black one, and I really like the choice of records that they put in here. I mean, the fact that they're not out there on the Classic series and they're not out there on the Tone Poet series, at least as of yet, that's kind of cool. That makes this like a little bit more of an exclusive thing and make you want to actually go out there and get it. If you did want to wait for it, I mean, I would imagine that at some point along the lines, Blue Note's going to put out all these records again on Tone Poet or Classic Vinyl series. So definitely consider that if you're considering getting any of these. But if you're a diehard Blue Note fan and if you're a diehard jazz fan, you're definitely going to like this one. Definitely go consider checking it out. Now, if you like this video, you're probably going to like some other videos on the channel, like these ones here. Definitely go check those out today, and I will see you on the next one.